The man who ate on the floor with us turned out to be the millionaire, funding every meal we'd ever had. The ordinary nights at the shelter. I used to think the soup kitchen was just a temporary stop in my life, a place where you grabbed a warm meal, traded a few polite words, and tried not to think too much about the people sitting next to you. It was never meant to feel like home, but somehow it did. Every evening there was the same crowd, families struggling to get by, retirees whose savings hadn't stretched far enough, and drifters who never said where they came from. Then there was Tom, the quiet older man who always sat cross-legged on the floor beside us, even when there were empty chairs. Tom wasn't like the others. He dressed simply, an old flannel shirt and worn jeans, but there was something peaceful about him. He never complained, never asked for seconds. He'd just smile and ask if anyone needed help carrying the heavy soup pots back inside after meals. For months, I thought he was just another kind soul fallen on hard times. But there were tiny things that didn't add up. His hands were too smooth for someone living rough. His shoes were always in good shape. And once, when a teenager mocked him for sitting on the floor, Tom didn't get angry. He just said softly, "I like it here. It keeps me grounded." At the time, none of us knew how literally he meant that. The stranger's quiet kindness. Tom always showed up early, helping the volunteers set the tables or chop vegetables. The staff adored him. One of the coordinators once told me, "If every guest was like Tom, we'd all be out of jobs. He's too helpful." He didn't talk much about his past. When asked, he'd just smile and say, "I've lived many lives. Now I'm enjoying this one." It sounded like something a philosopher might say, but his tone was so genuine that nobody laughed. There was one night when our electricity was cut off at home. My mom, my little sister, and I came to the kitchen soaked from the rain. As we sat shivering with our trays, Tom noticed and slipped off his thin jacket, draping it over my sister's shoulders. "You'll grow into it," he said with a wink. I remember thinking, even people with nothing can still find a way to give. Then he started helping behind the scenes more often, unloading food shipments, cleaning late into the night, even staying after others had left. One evening, I overheard him whispering to one of the coordinators, "Do the funds ever run short?" She sighed and said, "Always." The next week, boxes of fresh produce arrived, labeled with donors, names I'd never seen before. The volunteers said an anonymous sponsor had started sending supplies. Nobody knew who it was. We just felt thankful that someone out there cared. The day everything changed. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday. The air smelled like tomato stew and soap, the usual mix of comfort and fatigue. I was wiping tables when the shelter manager called everyone together. "We have a guest visiting this week," she said, smiling nervously. "He's one of our sponsors." We all clapped politely, assuming some businessman would show up in a suit to check boxes and take photos. But no one came that night, nor the next. On the third day, when the manager repeated the announcement, Tom quietly raised his hand and said, "Maybe I can help host him when he comes." Everyone laughed, thinking it was a joke. Then, after the meal, a black car pulled up outside. The driver stepped out and held the door open, not for anyone else, but for Tom. The entire room froze. Tom turned to us, a little shy, and said, "I suppose I owe you all the truth." He walked to the center of the room, still wearing that same flannel shirt, and explained that he was the anonymous sponsor. The one who'd paid for the new food shipments, the heating repairs, and even the bus passes we got for free rides home during bad weather. He said he'd grown up not far from where we were standing, once so poor that floor meals were standard in his home. He built a company years later, but he'd never forgotten what it felt like to go hungry. You could have heard a pin drop. Some people cried. Some just stared, stunned. He looked around the room and smiled. "I didn't want to be the man who gave you food," he said. "I wanted to be the man who ate with you." The revelation aftershock. We were speechless. It was like finding out your neighbor was secretly a celebrity, but instead of fame, it was kindness that made him extraordinary. The volunteers hugged him. My mom couldn't stop crying. She kept saying, "You sat with us like you were one of us." Tom just nodded. "I am one of you," he said. Over the next few weeks, the shelter underwent quiet transformations. New tables appeared. The fridge finally got repaired. No news cameras, no publicity, just improvements that made life easier. But what stayed the same was Tom's habit. He still sat on the floor to eat. When I asked him about it one evening, he grinned. "You see things differently from down here," he said. "It reminds me that we're all on the same level when we share a meal." That night, I joined him on the floor. Others followed. Before long, the chairs were half empty and laughter filled the room. It wasn't charity anymore. It felt like family. Tom's quiet philosophy. Tom often said little things that stuck with me. Once I asked him why he didn't just reveal his identity sooner. He said, "Because real connection doesn't grow when you lead with labels. People treat you different when they think you have something to give." He was right. Before, he'd just been another kind man at the shelter. But after the reveal, people softened, listened more, and even fought less. It was like his humility reminded everyone that worth isn't defined by what you wear or what you own. He shared how his company specialized in community renewal projects, building housing, small businesses, and food networks to help families stand on their own feet. "I don't want to build things for people," he said. "I want to build things with them." He taught me a hard truth too. Money can solve hunger, but it can't feed the soul. Only connection can do that. Those words stayed with me more than anything. The day he left. Tom never liked big goodbyes, so of course, when he had to leave for another city, he told us casually. "Just a short trip," he said, but we knew it was more than that. Before he left, he called a small meeting. Everyone gathered, volunteers, families, friends. He gave the manager a thick folder, saying it contained a 5-year plan to secure funding for the kitchen. "You won't have to rely on mystery donors anymore," he said with a wink. He shook every hand, hugged everyone who came close, and told us we built something more powerful than charity. We'd built community. When he got into his car, no one wanted to move. We just stood there, waving until his car disappeared around the corner. I didn't know it then, but that would be the last time I saw him in person. Life after Tom. Years passed. The kitchen thrived. Word spread and new sponsors joined, not because of flashy marketing, but because people couldn't stop telling Tom's story. I grew up, got a stable job, and started volunteering at the shelter myself. Every week, I sat cross-legged on the floor where Tom used to sit. Some of the newcomers found it odd, but when I told them why, they started joining too. We even put up a small plaque on the wall that said, "In honor of Tom, the man who ate with us." One afternoon, a letter arrived. No return address, no signature, but the handwriting was unmistakable. It said, "Keep sitting on the floor. That's where real people meet." That was enough to know he was still somewhere out there, helping someone else, eating beside them, reminding them of their worth. The moral of the story. Tom taught me that wealth means nothing without empathy. True generosity isn't about standing above others. It's about sitting with them, listening, and understanding their world. His story reminds me that humility doesn't diminish power. It amplifies it. The richest people I've met weren't the ones with full bank accounts. They were the ones with full hearts. It's easy to chase recognition, to want the world to know when you're doing good. But real kindness often happens quietly, in the corners where no cameras roll, shared between strangers who later become friends. If you ever doubt your impact, remember this. You don't have to sit on a throne to change lives. Sometimes, sitting on the floor is exactly where you need to be.